Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to be looking at the VIX, which is the market volatility index. I wanted to bring this to your attention because, as you know, we are going through some volatile times in the stock market, and it's brought up some good buying opportunities. We can see at the peak over here, the VIX hit about 60.13. which is at an all-time high. If we actually go back and look at the 5-year time, it's very hard to find even something similar to that. There was this strange spike here. I looked more into this of the 65.73, but it actually did not last as long as what we had experienced last time. So we want to go ahead and look at the max time frame here. We can go back and actually look at the last big scare, which was actually the 2008 financial crisis. That was on October 31st, 2008. We hit 89.53, and we have not hit higher since, even during the pandemic. We can see right here, pandemic was back on February 28th, 2020, and we can see that high right there. And actually, I'm a little off right there. So we hit about 85.47, still not as high as our Great Recession back in 2008. But the point being is that we want to make sure that we're looking at this as a way to buy into stocks and also see market variations. So if we want to look at the 1 year here, that's what I actually like to look at. We can see majority of the time it's been pretty low. So let's go look at a stock like Nvidia, because it is probably one of the most heavily traded stocks currently. So we can see, as we look at Nvidia, we can see this thing has basically traded sideways for the past year. But if we look at the VIX, right, because we were looking at that, we want to see once this has spiked quite high, we can see that in a lot of these companies, we can actually start jumping in. If we want to overlay this, we can actually come up here and we can type in VIX. So let's do that right now. And we can see where this has been spiking. So we can see as the VIX has went up, and actually let me go back so we can even see this more clear. Here is what I wanted to show you guys. So as we are getting these spikes, right, of basically fear in the markets, you can see the buying opportunities, and this will rebound. Our VIX is still pretty high. It's not as low as I would like it in the sense of, price the market, or pricing the market, I should say. But it's what I want to look for when I'm buying stocks, because we can see every time we have these peaks in the VIX, we can see some good buying opportunities. Again, right, watch where that VIX is going. See, so right here we can see back on basically December 6, 2024, almost when we hit that peak of 153.12, we can see where this VIX was, and we can do this with any stock. Basically, we can do this with Robinhood. We can see the fear actually went down. We can actually see right there, again on IonQ. And here's another thing to note about the VIX. It's not the perfect indicator, but you want to pay attention to it when you're looking at market volatility. So market volatility, as we can see, something like Tesla, I think is a really good example of it. So Tesla hit a high of 488.54, and let's actually zoom into this just a tad. So we can see it spiked here. The VIX was, let's see if we can actually get to the height of that. According to this, right, the high was 57.52, but we can actually look at Tesla was dropping quite low and substantially there, and we actually closed at 221.86. So it's a good correlation as to where to buy these stocks, because the prices will just vary so dramatically. Now let's go look at a couple more companies like Apple. So Apple here, and let me adjust our frames here because this thing actually gets messed up. You know what? I'm going to actually take that off. First, let's look at this. We want to look at where Apple was. We had a high back here on basically December 26th, right after Christmas. That was our Santa Claus run in the stock market. It was at 259.81. And then ever since then, we have been declining. Now, if we come and look at the VIX, right? We want to look at the same time frame. We can see in the past 6 months, right? So Apple was back here, right? So we had some peaks, right? But nothing too bad, pretty stable, right? Pretty stable. But look at this spike in volatility because of all the tariffs. And that is really your time to jump in and go ahead and buy stocks. It's where you want to jump in. And right now we're sitting at 30.89. I still think it's an excellent buying opportunity if you want to buy anything. We can go look at the S&P 500 and we can see, look at that drop, right? excellent buying opportunity. If we want to look at the 1 year, we can see just how dramatic that was. And if we want to look at the 5 year, we can see that decline. Excellent buying opportunity if you want to own some S&P 500. And also the other thing to note here is I have been keeping an eye on this O'Reilly Auto stock. This was actually the stock that I had mentioned in a couple of videos ago. This particular stock, even through all of the volatility of the VIX, right? We can see right here. Let's come to year to date and let's come back to O'Reilly. We can see it has actually not suffered too much. It has continued to go up, and like this company, and this company continues to buy its shares back. So if you want to think of it as it's almost going private in the sense that it just taking all of its shares back, so it continues to skyrocket. If we look at the 5-year chart on this, it is impressive. I mean, it is just going up and up and up. That is something I am looking at. And of course, Sprouts was another one that actually performed pretty well during this volatile market. We can look at the 1 year, it did pretty good. And again, let's go into that VIX right there. Let's look at the 1 year. Actually, let's go back to year to date here because it's a little better. So we can see that, right? So there was Sprouts Farmers Market and there was the VIX. So you can definitely see it correlates to when you want to buy some stocks. And I just use it as a general census as to when to basically deploy capital. Let me know if you have any more questions about the VIX Volatility Index. I always like discussing it down in the comments with you. Thank you for supporting the channel. And as always, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.